Hello, my soul tribe, and welcome. This is for Love Month, day 7. This comes with a little bit of a disclaimer. So, the messages for this day are from the Rebel deck. Okay, so this is more the day of tough love. Okay, so those of you that resonate with those messages, just to give you a little heads up, that's the deck that I am working with here. So if you are easily offended, maybe choose another love day. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and see what comes through here for tough love for my soul tribe for the 7th of February. What do we have? What do we need to hear? Says you need a big hug, right? Squeeze. Well, that's some really nice tough love, right? Coming through there. So it's time to get a big hug, okay? It's time for you to embrace some affection. It's time for you to cuddle with your pet. It's time for you to, at the very least, wrap yourself up in some nice warm blankets, right? You deserve it. You require it, right? You know, look at that. Big squeeze, right? So allow yourself to receive that love and that affection. Some of you, that's what you need to hear, that it's important that you allow yourself to be supported, that you allow yourself a big hug. Not one of these like hugs that's just kind of like, meh, no. A big squeeze, a big hug that holds you, okay? That brings in that love, that opens up your heart space. Obviously by somebody that you want a big hug from, please, okay? But so many of you, maybe you're the one that's, you're the one putting out there all of that love and all of that support for others. And it's time for you to receive it. It's time for you to receive a big hug. And like I said, at the very least, wrap yourself up in a nice warm blanket, right? I don't know. Sometimes I find that I will actually sleep better on the couch than I do in my own bed because I'm like kind of all like snuggled in, like cocooned in. And that's really, relaxing for me. So some of you, if you feel like you don't want a hug from someone, that's okay too. But just give yourself that like warm, cozy atmosphere and feeling, right? So important. It's so important. And it lets me know that's something that maybe your heart is trying to tell you, your heart space is trying to tell you, but you haven't been listening because, again, maybe you have been focusing all your energy outward. Definitely watch the previous Love Day message because it was all about the love that and value that we put out there without even realizing it and starting to kind of identify and recognize the ways, the value that we don't necessarily see, within ourselves. And so that might be something that'd be beneficial, especially for those of you that have been a great amount of support for others, right? Okay, let's see, what other tough love do we require? Yes. Okay, this is for somebody who is focusing on the wrong energy or an energy that's not healthy for them to focus on. We have stop texting, stop stalking, stop checking on that person, just stop, right? It says spend time on someone worth it. Don't waste it on ridiculousness. This is such a good message to come through because, again, soul groups, this year is all about soul groups, but recognizing when people truly value our time, they truly value our attention, right? Truly value our presence. If you're sitting there with somebody and you're pouring your heart out and they're texting on their phone, what does that tell you, right? Or some of you, if you're texting somebody who's not replying to you, sometimes it's, they're busy, right? Sometimes it could be a million different things, right? There could be a lot of excuses, but for those of you that are resonating with this message, it's somebody who's not available, at least not at the time that you're texting them, right? So recognize that and put your time and energy where you are celebrated and where you are appreciated, because rejection can be a form of protection and also redirection. It could be that you're not hearing from someone, but that's because you redirected to focus on something else that would be more fulfilling at this time. Maybe you're not in alignment with them at this time, and that's okay, right? But if you're fixating on someone, recognize that and shift your focus to something that is valuing your time, valuing your energy, or something that is even just more fulfilling for you. Especially if you're, with that stalking energy, if you're like addicted to someone, right? You could be focusing on them because you're avoiding feeling something else, or you're avoiding something else that, you feel like would be important for you to focus on. But the overall message is spend time with those who value you. And when people show you that they don't, know that it's not about you, it's about them. And focus on those that do value your time and energy. It's just a way of you to prioritize your experience with energies that support you in creating your highest timeline, rather than detract you or take you away from that, right? Spend your time on someone worth it. Don't waste it on ridiculousness, right? So if that's what someone is showing you, believe it, and just focus on someone who is worth it, who is worth your time, who's worth your energy, who's worth your efforts. Okay, and this feels more like a feminine sort of energy too, although it could be masculine, but like, don't chase, right? When you chase things, they run. When you sit back to receive, then you attract, right? So you'll know if that resonates. If it's not your message, it's not your message, but someone needed to hear that. It's time for a refocus and to evaluate who brings value into your experience, who aligns with you. I do feel like in the age of technology that we're in, people expect responses like this, and that's not always possible, and that's not always healthy, right? Like, we do deserve our space and time, and to respond, when we are able, or when it's in alignment. There's so many times I don't respond to texts right away because I know that I can't sit down and give it the proper attention. So, there's always going to be other reasons, but this would be for someone who, like, you've been putting a lot of time and attention and energy into someone who's not returning it to you. Okay. Oftentimes too, when you refocus on something else, then they contact you, but then you get into this weird dynamic, and you really have to have strong boundaries with yourself too, because you don't want to be playing games. Your time is too valuable for that, right? So let's see, what other tough love is important for my soul tribe? We have you're the shit, don't forget it. Okay? So some of you need that reminder, okay? That remind you of how amazing you are. And remind yourself to be around people that, reflect that back to you too. Need maybe some fresh energy in your experience. I joined a book club a while back, and they're all sharing kind of what they do for their professions. Then I shared mine, and I talked about the tarot, and I was expecting some sort of judgment or something, and oh my gosh, they were so lit up and so excited and wanted to know more and had all these questions. So being in the right circles, that support you and appreciate what you have to offer is quite important, even if it is opening up to new circles and meeting new energies, right? Anything else? You need some yoga in your life. And then it says ancient practices are cool. Okay. So some of you, maybe, you did practice yoga and you found that it was something that really benefited you. Maybe you haven't been doing that in a while. There's been a whole lot going on. Obviously, we get dysregulated at that time. Maybe that's a practice to bring back into your experiences, some of those ancient practices. Some of you, it's tapping back in with your magic, tapping back in with those spiritual everyday practices that are helpful for you maintaining your frequency, your balance, your health and wellness, your happiness, right? So some of you, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like I remember, there's so many different like yoga challenges and things. And there was one that I started and stopped, and I'm like, oh yeah, that one's for me. I'm gonna go back to that practice. That's a good one. Let's see. Anything else when it comes to tough love for my soul tribe for the 7th of February? Something wanted to come out and then dipped back in. Okay. Some of you, we have whatever you're thinking about it, don't do it. Now is not the time. So some of you, if you watch the compassionate leadership message, there was a dog on one of the cards sitting with, a fork and a knife with like a raw steak in front of it. And it was any day now, right? So that dog really obviously wanted to dive into that steak, but it wasn't the right time. Another, way you could look at this is like pulling a cake out of the oven before it's fully baked. It's not going to taste good, right? It's not going to be the experience you're hoping for, you're craving, and you can't wait to like dive into. So some of you, obviously use your discernment. That's very direct, but some of you want something before it's ready, okay? Before it's the right timing. So check and see if you're rushing into something, if maybe it's the signs have kind of been cautioning you to maybe slow down or rethink things, or just letting you know something isn't quite ready yet. That cake isn't fully baked just yet, right? You were to take it out of the oven, you were sticking a toothpick and pull it out, it's still gooey, right? And so it's important that you kind of rethink the timing of something, or maybe the time frame of something, and even dive a little deeper into why you're rushing something. Are you rushing it out of fear, or are you coming from a place of empowerment? Because I think when you recognize why you're wanting something to rush forward, you'll see, if I do it this way, I'm not going to have the result that I desire. And I'm also out of alignment in moving forward and rushing this forward in this way. So some of you, that message will align, that it's a time frame situation and something's not quite ready. Okay, so I think first identifying why you want it to rush forward, knowing that it's from a place of fear, and recognizing and shifting yourself back into a space of empowerment and alignment, then things would probably get back on track and move forward in a smoother way for you. That's just kind of what I'm sensing. Of course, use your discernment, but some of you, it's like this could align with perhaps the person that you're trying to reach that isn't, that is not giving you the time and attention that you desire. That could be a message to set a boundary with yourself, right? Because someone here is like some sort of obsessive thinking where they're like, oh, I should just go by their house, I should just do this. And I don't mean it as it's like you're concerned about this person's health and wellness. It's just like you do have these patterns of thought that you kind of need to address, and be aware of the cues from the universe, but also from the timing of things, that things aren't quite aligned, right? So take it if it resonates, release if it doesn't, right? Someone, they'll be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And some of you, if you have like a really strong resistance to that message, then, maybe it's not your message. My intention is that when these messages are delivered, they're meant to go to who they align with, right? Who's ready to receive them. So if you're not, then that may not be your message. Okay. But taking your time, really feeling things through, recognizing what's showing up for you, being very present will be helpful with this timing alignment, recognizing to the motivation and where that's coming from. Okay, let's see. Anything else for the tough love messages for the 7th of February for my soul tribe? I think that may be it. Okay. So remember you're awesome. Remember to spend time with those that value you, right? And recognize, the timing of things. And if, the signs are cautioning you to kind of slow down or reevaluate, rethink. Some of you, ask for that big hug or allow yourself to receive that love, receive that big hug, and get back to those ancient practices that really align with who you are at your core and support you with your life and what you want to create and build, and your health and your wellness and your happiness. So those are the tough love messages. Receive what aligns, release what doesn't. Thank you so much for joining me. Take the best care of yourself, and I will see you soon.